Should you be training in a fasted state? What are the benefits or potential pitfalls? If you're 40 to 60 years old, struggling with weight gain around the midsection, maybe high blood sugars or blood pressure, you're going to want to keep watching. Hey guys, Marc Bubbs here, performance and clinical nutritionist. I'm going to share with you today some compelling research on how training in the fasted state, so training before you eat breakfast, can be a game changer for improving chronically high insulin levels and weight gain. To start, I'm going to share with you this clip from Dr. Rob Edinburgh from Bath University and his research on middle-aged overweight men and how training in a fasted state before they ate breakfast had a powerful effect on their insulin levels. Check it out.
So in our study, we asked the participants to perform exercise before breakfast, and our breakfast was a carbohydrate drink. And we showed that if you exercise before breakfast, so fasted, our measure of insulin sensitivity was increased relative to when the same exercise was performed after breakfast. So the same pattern, performing exercise in the fasted state led to greater benefits for insulin sensitivity.
So what does this mean for you? Well, if you're struggling with 20, 30, 40 pounds of weight to lose, and you've got a lot of weight around the midsection, right? You got belly fat, high belly fat, then more than likely you're going to have chronically high insulin levels, as well as high blood sugar levels, high blood pressure, and the like. Now, this might sound great, but I'm sure you've heard otherwise on the internet. So I'm going to share with you the mechanisms behind how this actually works. So in this next clip, Dr. Rob is going to dive into the mechanisms underpinning how training in this fasted state will help you to reduce those chronically high insulin levels and improve your health.
And then you mentioned as well about IMTG, and there's a nice body of evidence that's gone before us that suggests that turnover of fat stores might be beneficial for health. So that's the turnover of fat stores from our fat tissue, but also regular utilization of the fat stored in muscle, so intramuscular triglycerides, and this has been associated with improved insulin sensitivity. And in our study, because we collaborated with those researchers at the University of Birmingham, we were able to show that doing your exercise in the fasted state, you get increased intramuscular triglyceride utilization in type 1 and type 2 fibers of these overweight men. And a really nice element of our study was that we measured expired air samples during every single exercise training study session. So we collected something called Douglas bags, and we looked at the composition of those bags, and we were able to work out energy expenditure and carbohydrate and fat use during every single session. And what we found is there was a correlation between the men who burned the most fat during the exercise training sessions and the change in our estimate of insulin sensitivity.
So again, to sum up what Dr. Rob is saying there, if you're training in a fasted state, you're going to increase the use of the fats in your muscle. These are called intramuscular triglycerides to fuel your training. And your ability to use those is a great predictor of improved insulin sensitivity. And remember, context is important here. If you were an elite athlete, if you're really pushing yourself on the performance side and you were already very lean, we wouldn't adopt this strategy necessarily. Now we're going to take one more deep dive into the science, and Dr. Rob's going to share two more pathways that get impacted by training in this fasted state and why these are so crucial. So it's going to get a little bit technical here. Hang on tight this short clip, and then I'll come on the back end to sum up this episode.
If we link back to some of those key energy sensing proteins, and these were some of the things that we measured in our muscle samples from the training study. So we know that AMPK and PGC1 alpha, some of those key ones I talked about earlier, they're nutrient sensitive. And they're involved in different adaptations, so mitochondrial adaptations, proteins involved in glucose or sugar transport into muscles, such as GLUT4, which is that main glucose transport protein. And in our study, we observed greater increases in the protein levels of AMPK and PGC1 alpha in muscle with exercise before versus after breakfast. So skeletal muscle AMPK, it can be activated by high fatty acid availability, as well as muscle glycogen availability. So some of the work that came before our study had shown quite nicely that when you exercise with low muscle glycogen, you can increase the responses of some of these proteins such as AMPK. We also looked at the phospholipid composition of skeletal muscles. These are, and this was done with researchers in Poland. It's the fatty acid composition of muscle membranes, and this has been important for health and insulin sensitivity. And we showed greater remodeling or beneficial remodeling of this membrane with exercise before breakfast.
So, if you're struggling with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, you're more than likely going to have chronically high insulin levels. If you're struggling with 20, 30, 40 pounds to lose, you've got high belly fat, your blood sugars or your blood pressure are high, again, more than likely, your insulin levels are going to be higher. By training in a fasted state, you're going to improve your body's ability to utilize fuel sources like intramuscular fats that are not just powerful stimulators of getting leaner, but also improving your insulin, blood sugar control, etc. Of course, you need to eat a good breakfast on the back end, but that's a discussion for another episode. And remember, there are no quick fixes. You have got to put in the work. You've got to repeat that work consistently over time to achieve an outcome. The challenge is most people are used to trying to do a lot and getting a very poor return on their investment. This is a small, simple change that you can implement that will have a significant impact on your body composition and your health. Give it a try. Hit me in the comments with how things are going. If you enjoyed this video, please share with friends and of course, hit that subscribe button. See you guys next week.